I have been looking everywhere. Oh, hey dad. Young smiled at his father. Both siblings had accepted their father in past 6 months. Alex had all the time to get to know their children. They had a strong bonding and felt like they had known each other for ages. As much as Deong was hesitant, Alex had given all the property to Deong. In the beginning, Deong refused that he offered because he couldn't accept the property that had been owned by wrong means. But then Alex gave his property in Russia to both children, the Russian property by their thought his grandfather, and that they and Deong had to accept no matter what they did. Deong still worked in his old firm, to step dad, because Mr. Kim didn't deserve any cruelty for him. Deong bond with Mr. Kim was the same as before, but unlike they, he had not forgive his mother. He was in the company but refused to start conversation with him. Jungkook, on the other hand, accepted Alex as his free father-in-law. As started by him, he didn't talk too much to the man. Either he had forgiven him for what he did with his brother, even though Jungkook did. There have been occasions when Alex helped Jungkook and Jungkook was forgiven him, but not Jungkook. Three never stopped there for visiting his father. Both men like children all the time, much to their amusement. Jungkook called him old, whereas Alex called him chatterbox, with they both barred all the time. And therefore now they saw Jungkook making his way toward them and smiled at himself. I should go. I have dinner with Inhe's parents. So I'll see you tomorrow. The young asked her day, which he noted. Yeah, sure. Bye. He smiled and walked away. Jungkook made his presence known and wrapped his arm possessively around the young waist as if Alex was a competitor. It was his father, for God's sake. What are you doing with useless peoples? He foamed, and they rolled his eyes and placed his hand on his chest. Before he could say anything, Alex spoke. Do you ever switch off the button of your chatterbox? He narrowed his eyes at Jungkook, who clenched his teeth. Chatterbox doesn't have any button. Excuse me, stay in your limit, he snapped. And what's my limit? Would you please do the honor of drawing him for me? Okay, that's enough. Cook, you need to drop me at Invo's. And Dad, I'll see you at Saturday. They waved and dragged Jungkook along with him. What does he think of himself just because he has some shiny hair? I'm also waiting for the day when I punch that living. Cook, stop it. That's my father you're talking about. They turned over his shoulder and scrolled it. His shoulders slumped. Whatever. Now come on, we need to go. They dragged him. Jungkook wrapped his arm around his shoulder and kissed his lips lightly. Sorry, sweetheart. Cook, there's so many people here. Stop it. They pushed as he blushed. But it's just a kiss. It's not like I'm taking off your. Shut up. They snapped. His cheeks were heated up like they had been set on fire. Jungkook chuckled and pinched his cheeks. You're so cute. I'm kidding. Come on, let's go. And they, together, walked toward the car. Last month, Sofia had returned for Canada, and not only they, but everyone had been shocked to see her appearance. They were sure that it was not real Sofia, and someone, basically an angel, had possessed her body. They still remember how she apologized to him over and over for an whole week for what she had done. They, being the kind soul, forgave her and started forming a friendship with her. But all this just nothing. So many secrets had been revealed in the past month. They even stayed mad at Jungkook for a week because he knew he had hid for him. But he eventually forgave him and understood that it wasn't his place to reveal his brother's secret. But everyone else was not as forgiven as they. Sofia's family especially didn't forgive her, except for Inhe. She was shocked, but she stood by her sister. Her family had disowned her, saying that she married without their consent. of her family and didn't want to connect for someone like that. Her father had not forgiven her. Jungkook, on the other hand, had been forgiven by their parents. Her mother accepts Sofia as her daughter-in-law and eventually forgave both of them. And either they want to get married, but got married was formed upon, and everyone was angry at that fact. Jungkook had shocked everyone when he accepted Sofia as his wife and told everyone that he was much responsible for this. They ran his finger through his hair nervously. They sat in front of the vanity and stared at his reflection in nervousness. Jungkook was reading a book as he lied on the bed with his arm beside his head. They closed his eyes, inhaling a deep breath, and then exhaled it. They stood up shakingly while biting his lips and walked toward Jungkook. They sat beside him on the bed, but he was still reading a book with great interest. They looked at him and said, "Cook," they called, tucking a lock of his hair behind his ear, and glanced at the wall. It struck 2 in the morning. Jungkook hummed, still not moving his eyes from the book. They swallowed and then braced himself. "I have something to tell you." They started, grabbing his hand slowly, and Jungkook moved his eyes from the book and then looked at him, a warmth in his face. They picked up his hand and brought it closer to him. All the while Jungkook watched him in confusion. They blushed. His cheeks were on fire. As he slowly placed his palm on his belly over the shirt, he was breathing. Shyly they lifted his eyes and looked at him. Jungkook looked at him more confusingly and said, "Why are you blushing?" He gasped at the book across the room and sat at his place. He looked at Tae and then at his hand on his belly and back at Tae's blushing face. "No, no." He shook his head. His eyes became wide, and then he clenched before. "Don't joke, Tae," he chuckled. His eyebrows kissed together, and then he foamed. "You're kidding me, right?" He laughed, staring back at Tae's stomach in complete shock. They bit his lips and shook his head. Jungkook sat straight and gasped again, his hand flying from Tae's stomach to cup his face. "Say it," he said happily, in his eyes as emotion crossed his face. They blushed once again and mumbled, "I'm pregnant." Theung, he tugged Tae closer and started showering her face with kisses. They kissed the forehead, his nose, his eyelids, his cheeks, and repeatedly picking his lips. I can't believe it." "Thank you so much," he chuckled, and they smiled at him softly and gasped his best, but he still had his face in his hand. "This is the best news ever. I'm so happy." He smiled softly. They ran his finger through his chin and smiled at him. Jungkook lifted his hand and placed it on his stomach, looked adorably at him. "What do you think it is?" he asked, a husky voice leave his mouth. They placed his own hand over his and smiled. "A boy. A girl. Definitely." They added, and they giggled, shook his head at him. "But I want twins or triplets." He placed his forehead against him. "You don't have to birth them, so shut up," they said jokingly. He chuckled and winked at him. "How many kids do you want?" he asked, and they screamed. "3, they said, "and I will be happy to." He smiled and kissed their lips lovingly. They wrapped his arm around his neck, kissing him back. Once he pulled back, he wrapped along the neck and nuzzled on the neck. "I love you." He smiled and played with his hair on his neck.